Hello everybody, welcome. Today we are focusing on the topic of contemplation to action and what that looks like for a journey you might be beginning, or maybe you're kind of worried about starting. And we're going to be talking about all of those limiting beliefs and frustrations, fears, disempowering thought processes, and all of that fun stuff today. So stay tuned and we are going to jump right in. You are listening to the Raw Reflections podcast with Ariel Keller. Thank you so much for joining me. This podcast is brought to you by the Mirror Impact, where we are dedicated to providing women with the tools, resources, and accountability they need to create lasting change in their lives. If you're interested in learning more about what we do and what we offer, go ahead and check out www.themirrorimpact.com, and you can see all of our membership options, program options, as well as live and online events, and how you can get involved and join the impact. All right, so we are going to be starting off today with talking about something called the trans-theoretical model of behavioral change. What a mouthful, right? And the 5 phases are pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. All right, and you can kind of probably think about a few different moments in your life where you have been in one or more of those phases, and that contemplation and pre-contemplation phase is sometimes it's difficult to figure out which one you're in. But basically the biggest difference is whether you are actively wanting to make change in the next 3 to 6 months, or you're not actively wanting to make change. That would be that pre-contemplation phase. If you're like, I know it's there, I know that I'm like pre-diabetic, but I'm still going to eat a candy bar full of sugar every day because I want to and I'm living my best life, and I don't have to worry about diabetes until I'm at least 35. Lies. Okay, it's called prevention, treating the problem before it becomes a problem. But that is typically the phase where people aren't wanting to make change. They're not receptive to someone inviting them to a fitness class or to a, seminar, networking event, or a program or a challenge or something like that, because they're like, nah, I'm good. I'm good living my life the way it is. All right. And if you're there, well, I would really like you to open your mind. I would love for you all to be in that contemplation phase. But if you're right there on the brink, keep listening. So this contemplation phase is when you are recognizing there's a problem and you're seriously thinking about how you're going to overcome this. Like, you're like, my pants are getting real tight around my waist and summer's coming up and I want to wear my bikini and feel confident. So I'm going to start working now. I'm going to start just doing little things to improve my health. Just being intentional about what I'm putting in my body, about moving my body more, about drinking more water, and not overwhelming myself with all the things that I have to change of, oh, I hate the cellulite on my legs, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this about my body, and this is why I have to change. And we talk a lot about that in my challenges, about that mentality of why we're doing good for our bodies. But that's when you're in a phase of, I want to do something different about this. I know there's a problem and I know I want to make change. And then this is a really tough phase, because this is when we're dealing with all of those insecurities. I think this is like the adolescence of behavioral change, because in our adolescence, when we're going into middle school, maybe even the late part of high school, we're going through all these emotions, all of these hormones, all of these PMS. We don't understand what's going on in our minds, our bodies. We're so confused, right? So contemplation is the adolescent phase of change, in my opinion. We're just going to use it for an example for the purpose of this podcast. And when we go into preparation, it's kind of like planning for college, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going out into the big world, and I'm really scared to take action and go do what I know I want to do, or maybe I don't know. And there's all these questions. We're questioning everything. What am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to be? What's my purpose? That's that same kind of concept. We're going through all these limiting beliefs and all of these uncertain thoughts about what it is we're about to embark on. And a lot of times we can get really bogged down and overwhelmed by all of those things, similar to that phase of adolescence or, late high school, and we're transitioning into adulthood, right? And that that uncertainty, that fear of failing, that sense of, oh, what if I fail myself, or what if I fail others, or what if I'm not good enough? What if I don't know what to do? What if I can't accomplish this? What if I set these goals and I let people know about these goals and then I fail? I'm going to be so embarrassed. I don't want to put this out on Facebook that I'm trying to lose weight until I actually lose weight, because I don't want people to know, just in case, That's expecting yourself to fail. How can we really move forward if we expect ourselves to fail? And those are the feelings that we're dealing with during this contemplation phase. That uncertainty of not knowing where to start, of what program to use, what diet to use, all these things that we think based on our perceptions of what we've had, our past experiences of the crash diets that we had to go on, or the those moments of, oh, I gotta cut out sugar for 3 weeks, or I'm just gonna, Lent, I'm gonna cut out sugar. It's that level of restrictive behavior that causes people to rebel from that and push away from that and not want to do anything healthy for their bodies because they fear that level of restriction. So understanding where those uncertainties are, and sometimes we don't see those uncertainties until later on, but we've got those fears of that we're going to not be able to eat the foods we love, or that we're not going to ever be able to drink alcohol again, or sugar, or that there's those excuses that are going through our minds of time constraint. I don't have any time. I don't have any I don't have hours a day to dedicate to my health. Okay, that's great. Do you have 10 minutes? Can you put your kids to bed 10 minutes earlier? Like, are they really going to hate you that bad just so you can spend 10 minutes by yourself, like, to work on you? Is that enough to ask? Can we work out something? Can you barter with yourself to be able to make time, even if it's 5 to 10 minutes? That kind of thing. And rerouting those limiting beliefs of, well, I'm going to have to dedicate 2 hours a day, or I'm going to have to restrict myself to only eating salads and celery. No, no one would want that. Why would I want that? Absolutely not. But the levels of fear and restriction and, uncertainty in our minds during this contemplation phase feel very real, because they are for us based on our level of experience up until this point. Okay. And the level, sometimes we're even dealing with elements of self-worth and identity. And those are based on limiting beliefs taught to us by people who were involved in our upbringing or our sports events. Maybe it was a coach that continued to push you, and in their mind they were trying to bring out the best in you, but in your mind it was very mentally degrading, or degrading on your level of self-worth or ability, and understanding and identifying those pieces of your past that may have influenced your opinion of creating positive change now. That's a really important and powerful thing, because you can use that and use it as fuel in a sense, because you're using it as this person taught me this. They tried to make me think this, but I'm going to choose to transition this mentality into a new one that is of service to my body, because it's really difficult when we're in sports in high school. We are taught to push our bodies. We're taught to push past the limits that our minds tell us. And yes, that is very important that our minds limit us to. But when our bodies limit us, and there's a real reason, when your shin splints, when you feel like your legs are breaking and your coach is like, no, we're still doing sprints. You're not done. That's a very degrading and unhealthy mentality to continue with in our adult life. And sometimes we don't know how to process that as children. I didn't want to be that kind of coach. I didn't want to be that kind of trainer who was continually pushing that person, to make them feel as if they were weak. That's not point? I'm not gonna yell at somebody and tell them how useless they are because they're having trouble with this set. Like, that doesn't seem productive at all. But those kinds of things of like, what were you brought up to believe? What were you brought up to believe, that you do not deserve to feel sexy or feminine or sensual, or you don't deserve to have a body that you feel sexy in? Like, that's a huge concept that is taught in, some religions and some households that are very conservative, that you should cover your entire body and no one ever should ever see this unless your husband. But that doesn't mean you can't feel sexy about yourself. Like, just because you don't plan on doing this chair fitness routine for anybody doesn't mean you can't feel sexy doing it, And that's my entire concept with this. The mirror impact is showing people not just the outside work that you've done, but also how you feel on the inside and how that reflects to the way that you communicate, the way that you're, not as jealous and not as, insecure when you walk into a room, or when you, see someone talking to your significant other. And just those kinds of things of developing new mentalities. And it's difficult to develop new mentalities when we're not aware of our current mentalities. And these are some of the things that you may be dealing with. Or maybe it's just that your entire family has always been big boned or large. They've always been heavier because no one in your family ever really gave a care about their health. Maybe you're the first person to spark that level of intention. And maybe you're the person that everybody's going to be like, wait a minute, something's different about her. I know it may not be easy at the beginning because, especially in this contemplation phase, we're feeling like, oh, if I make these choices around my family, they're going to make fun of me. They're going to tease me. They're going to be like, oh, you think you're better than us because you're eating healthy. Some people have family members like that, and it sucks. But those are the areas where you have to have that accountability elsewhere of people that actually do support the things you're doing that are good for your body, Those elements of self-hate, and I mentioned this earlier with that discontentment, but we have to be careful with this part of the contemplation phase, because when our intentions are based out of self-hate and of just degrading ourselves and thinking about all the things we need to change in our bodies, then we're never going to be happy with our bodies. But if we come from a place of self-love and of serving our bodies and our health and our future, and the clarity of our mind and the energy that we have and the ability to not have gut discomfort when you're eating food, like those kinds of things, rather than focusing on, I need to lose weight as soon as possible, as fast as possible. Those mentalities bring you into of your body, of your ability to just think. Like, we burn calories thinking, guys. We need calories in order to function. Those kinds of motivations can turn so easily into negative behavioral patterns that lead to depression and anxiety and food disorders and extreme fast weight loss solutions in a lot of cases, such as liposuction or surgery, supplements, crash diets that typically leave your body in more havoc than when it started. But because we're in that mentality of, I need to get this as fast as possible, I need to change my body as fast as possible, we're putting ourselves in more of a distress, our bodies into more distress than originally was happening. And then that is going to cause our bodies to probably gain more weight or gain more fat, because it's storing fat out of necessity. It is fearing not being able to have that next meal because you're restricting your body from the caloric needs and the nutrient needs. But the goal here is to understand those areas that are limiting us in this contemplation phase, understanding those limiting beliefs, those disempowering thought patterns, those mentalities that are focused on restrictive or judgmental or insecure elements that we hold only on the inside. using those as fuel to help us transition into a positively focused mentality and creating intentional actions that are inching us towards that point of positive change. And we're not necessarily focusing on getting to a exact number or a specific size or measurement necessarily. It is an intention of creating greater health, continual greater health. And not only for us, but also for those who watch and observe our existence. So how do we get from contemplation to action? And this is where we're going to pull in the mirror coaching model. I'm going to try to go through this quickly. Mindset, we've talked about that already. Willingness to adjust mentalities, expectations, form new understandings of what a healthy lifestyle looks like. Identify is the next step. That's the I in mirror. Taking ownership of the actions that we are responsible for. My dad brought home that chocolate cake, but I decided to eat half of it. You know, I can't blame it on my dad for bringing home the chocolate cake and tempting me with the chocolate cake. I have to take ownership for eating the chocolate cake. Or I have to take ownership for the fact that I haven't gotten up off my butt to move my body. This is that preparation phase of the trans-theoretical behavioral model. And this is that point where we have to take ownership of and responsibility of the things that we are responsible for and release some of those things that we're not responsible for. You have to take ownership of that if you're going to make change. So identifying those core contributors and write a list, but please do not get overwhelmed by this list. All right. This is not a list that's meant to make you spiral downhill and feel horrible about yourself. That's not the point here. It's to identify all of the areas that are contributing so that we can go through and respond to them. And that's these next three here with the release, repair, and overcome. Those are our three responses in the mirror coaching model. And releasing those self-placed unrealistic expectations, those limiting and disempowering beliefs that have no validity in your life now. All right, they may have when you were 5, 10, 13, 17. They do not have to now unless you allow them to. When we identify a limiting belief about ourselves that was created in our minds based on someone else who negatively influenced us in our past, that's that choice of, I'm not going to believe this anymore about myself because I am choosing to move past this. I'm not going to allow this to limit me anymore because this is something someone in my life said who no longer has a hold on me, no longer has any manipulation over my thought processes or my beliefs of myself, and being able to push past that. So releasing those, working on releasing those. It's not going to happen overnight, but if you are continual and intentional about it and you are marking down those things you've identified with that release, working on maybe one each day or one each week, right? Repair is the second step, which is repairing those perceptions of health, of food, of fats, carbs, sugar, dieting, what macros look like, what nutrients your body actually needs. I had this vivid memory when I was writing this content about this lady who would come when I was working at McDonald's. This lady would come through and she would get one of those chicken wraps, grilled chicken wraps, and they were 500 calories. And that is all she would eat all day, guys. She'd literally come through and tell me, this is my 500 calories for the day. And I'm like, what? You chose McDonald's for your 500 calories, lady? Really? I didn't understand. But her perception of calories was so focused on, I have to get this amount of calories in. She didn't think about how little nutrients was actually in that stinking wrap. So repairing our perception of what nutrients our bodies actually need and what foods actually give us that nutrients. Just look at your food labels. You don't have to do a whole bunch of research. Just look, what does the sign say? If it's natural food, if it's vegetables, it's probably good for you. It doesn't have to be organic. It doesn't have to be, super duper expensive. Just go for the natural stuff. That's what your body needs. Like, hello. It doesn't need to be processed. Just avoid the processed stuff as much as possible. It doesn't have to be super complicated. but repairing those understandings of exercise as well, finding your fitness, what works for your level of exercise. If you hate running, don't make yourself run. You're going to hate exercise. Hello? I have a whole video about that, by the way. So if you want to check that out, I'll link it below. And also that last step is, repairing our self-talk. How do we talk about ourselves? How do we encourage ourselves? Do we constantly degrade ourselves when we do something wrong, when we eat something wrong? Oh, dang it, Ariel, you are so stupid. I can't believe you ate that. You totally destroyed your workout you did today. No, don't. That's not helping anybody, especially you. All right. It's just like that what I was talking about earlier with the negative reinforcement. And that's not the kind of trainer I wanted to be. It doesn't help anybody. So learning how to transition those mentalities of loving yourself and speaking with love to yourself, caring for yourself out of a place of love, taking a hot bath when you need to, hot shower, even if it's the only time you get away from your children. Typically, if you lock yourself in the bathroom, you can get away with it for at least 10 minutes and no one might even notice. Overcoming is the last portion. That's overcoming that fear of failure, those external influences that they're not just going to float away instantly. They are still going to be there. Those family members that are going to tease you for being healthy, and those friends that are going to be like, goody two-shoes, she doesn't eat sugar. Okay, that's great. They're not going to go away. So you got to figure out how to deal with them. How are you going to overcome them? Are you going to avoid situations with them completely? Are you going to limit your exposure to these people? Are you going to be sure you bring along a friend who also, is at least supportive of your choices? So they're going to be that person who's not going to pressure you into taking shots of super sugary stuff or, whatever. Like caring for your body. Just remember, these are the people that are probably going to be speaking out of a place of insecurity, and they're going to look at you later on in life and be like, wow, that's impressive. I should do something like that for me. But who knows if they will. You might start that trend though. So who knows what kind of an impact you could be in your friends' lives. And just this last point here, it takes bravery, a lot of bravery to take action. To move from contemplation to action, it takes bravery and endurance and accountability. That is going to be your key to continuing with this action, this positive action, is going to be that level of accountability to stay on track. Those people in your lives that are encouraging you in this, that even if it's that one person who's also trying to make change, adamant change, if they're half-assing their change, they're not going to help you be consistent with yours. They're going to only influence you to be half-assed with yours. It's really simple. So find somebody who's just as determined as you are to make change and use that accountability on both parts as a way to stay on track. All right? So we're going to release those things that are not serving us. We're going to repair those things that are maybe a little bit, dysfunctional in our minds, but we know we need to transition that mentality in order to stay on track. And then overcoming that, those negative feelings or those influences, those things that are wanting to continue to hold us back, but we're like, no, I'm going to choose to do my very best to work to overcome these. And like I said, none of this happens overnight. It is a continual process. But if you're not continually growing, you're stagnant, right? So the people that are continually growing, reflecting off of one another, by using that accountability, we are bouncing off of one another's energy, of our excitement, of our positive change, of the things that we are overcoming, and we're sharing those stories. And that's why these mastermind calls are so exciting, and I can't wait for what they are going to become, especially in the next couple of months, because it's going to be people that are starting to make that change, and they're sharing that, and I'm so excited. So stay tuned for those. If you are wanting to join a challenge or a program to see what it's all about, go ahead and check out the website. I'll link all of the information above as well. Have an amazing day, guys, an amazing week. Go be the impact in the world around you, and work on just one day, one step at a time, beginning that change. that you want to create in your life. Be blessed, guys. Until next time. Bye-bye.